Here are the exercises for Chapter 8. First, we have a simple script that will contain one function. That function will calculate the average of all of its parameters, and it will print that average to standard output, so essentially it will just echo it if it needs to. So parameter, then obviously the average will be that parameter. Hopefully all these parameters are going to be integers. In other words, it's not really meaningful to average car, banana and umbrella. We can only obviously average numbers like 17, 301 and -6. So your program can actually assume that. It can assume that all the numbers that it gets are actually integers. But the interesting part about this exercise is there could be many numbers specified on the command line. There could be 1 or there could be 100. In fact, there could even be 0. So I want you to make sure that you handle the case where no parameters at all are given. You can, if you like, treat the average of no numbers at all as just 0. So if they don't supply any parameters, then you can just echo out 0. If they do specify parameters, then obviously you have to add them all up, divide by the number of parameters there were, and that will give you the average. And all you have to do is make sure that that average ends up on the screen. Now that's actually a moderately difficult exercise. It requires a good understanding of function parameters in order to solve that one successfully. Next, we modify the course project. We're basically just going to introduce a bunch of functions into our course project. We're going to take our existing code, which is at the moment just in one big long stream of code, and we're going to break it up into smaller chunks, which is a very professional way of writing a large-scale project. Rather than having one great big main set of code, which is say 300 lines long, you have a series of smaller chunks, and each chunk is a function. So anyway, we're going to do that. We're going to make sure that the code block that gets executed for each menu option is actually a function. So we'll have, I think we've got 4 menu options at the moment. 2 of them don't actually do anything. So we're actually going to create 4 functions. One that will do the creating, one that will do the viewing, one that will do the searching, and one that will do the deleting. I actually want you to create 4 functions. Even for the 2 that have not been implemented yet, you can just, the function, all it needs to do is echo out back to the screen again, this is not implemented yet, or something like that. So we'll have 4 functions there. Now also I'd like you to copy and paste the yes/no function into your script. If you like, you can include it using the dot operator. I don't mind, but the solution will actually show it included in the script. And then once you've got it in there, I'd like you to use it to ask the following questions to the user. When they type Q to exit the program, I want you to ask them if they're sure that they want to quit. I want you to check every addition of a record. So when they go about adding a record, once they've typed in all the details of that record, I want you to show them what they've just typed in and ask them the question, something like, are you sure this is what you want to add to the database? Which will give them a chance to back out of that if they have a typo. And if they say no, then obviously just go around again and ask them all the same questions again about surname, first name, street address and so on. And thirdly, after they add one record, without leaving that function, without leaving the adding a record function, ask them if they'd like to add another one. So the add record function will really be an add records function, because they may actually add several records. So as soon as they've successfully added one, we will get them to add another one. We'll ask them if they'd like to add another one, and so on until they say no, they don't want to add any more. And finally, the pause function. You remember I showed you a pause function earlier on in the chapter. I'd like you to create your own pause function, add it to the project and call it simply once at the end of the menu options. So once they've run one of the menu option functions, to add, view, search or delete, then we can call the pause function to simply pause at that point before we go around the loop again and show them the rest of the menu again. Okay, so there's quite a few modifications there. None of them is particularly difficult, but there are quite a few of them. So good luck with that, and I'll see you in the solutions.